Whoever designed Varesa's kit needs to have something bad happen to them. Like, I actually want them to face negative consequences for what they've put me through. Not because Varesa is a bad character, far from it, but just because this kit is so convoluted for no reason, but let's get into it. Hello there, Flip here, and today we've covered Eonson, so we're now going to be going over the 5-star of the patch, Varesa. Breaking down her kit in the simplest way possible, diving into her best teams, and finishing off the video by showing calculations, and how she compares to the current staple Electro DPS Clorinde. But before we do that, as always, if at any points during the video you're entertained or informed, make sure to drop a like and even consider subscribing, as I talk on various topics regarding Genshin meta, and I'll try to keep you updated. Shout out to all my lovely channel members, I really do appreciate the support. And also, hi! Seedreen and Mizuki are currently here, so if you'd like to save yourself some cash, then you'll love today's sponsor, Loot Bar. Loot Bar is a very safe and secure service I've been using for a few months now that some of you may be familiar with, as it allows you to buy Primo Gems at a 23% discount. And it doesn't need any of your passwords or personal information. I just need to type in my UID, select my region, and would you look at that, in only 3 minutes I've received my gems. I got the 3,280 Primo Gem pack at only £36.8, which saves me some money from the original price. Other creators also endorse the site like No Cap, Trident Shotgun, Mordex, and yours truly. Loot Bar essentially will act as a gateway using a VPN to cut down on the cost of gems by removing certain taxes, whilst going through the official top-up methods for the game, which allows you to enjoy the benefits that you'd get in-game like the top-up bonuses. So use my link in the description below to get 8% off any user coupon on your purchase. Thank you Loot Bar for sponsoring, and with that, let's get back to the video. Varesa is a 5-star Electro Catalyst character, and her role is going to be that of a main DPS that utilizes plunging attacks. Her kit is kind of all over the place as she has a lot of different states that all do different things, so just for it to be a little more seamless, I'm going to say what all the states do now, and when it's relevant to her kit, I'll explain how they tie into each other. The state Varesa will be in the most, and her most important one is going to be her Fiery Passion state, and this is activated when you reach the max amount of Night Soul points. And to summarize, this state is basically just a damage buff to Varesa. It makes her charge attack, skill, and plunges all do more damage, nothing too complicated. Varesa's next state is called the Sudden Onrush. It's not really that important, but I'll still discuss it, I guess. It's activated by holding down her skill and just increases her movement speed, nothing too complicated. For Varesa's third state that she can enter, it's called the Apex Drive. This is activated when Varesa uses a plunge attack while in her Fiery Passion state, and this Apex Drive state allows our cowgirl over here to use an elemental burst that requires a lower amount of energy while doing more damage, but I'll touch more on that later. And the last state Varesa has at C0 is the Rainbow Crash state, which is also activated by using her skill, and this just increases her plunging damage. There we go, that is 4 states before we've even got into her kit. Now let's actually dive deep into it. For once, Varesa's normal attacks actually kind of do something. Pause. Are you playing Genshin right now? It mostly ties into her Fiery Passion state I was talking about, but essentially, when Varesa does a charge attack, it causes her to leap into the air, which from there allows her to do a plunge. And this plunge attack restores 25 Night Soul points for Varesa. Varesa's max Night Soul point cap is 40, and capping out her Night Soul point is how you enter the Fiery Passion state, so her plunge attack serves as a way to get into the state, which directly ties into her elemental skill that has 2 charges. What the skill does is make Varesa dash towards enemies, and it also gives her 20 Night Soul points. And what's interesting about the skill is that if you press the normal attack button while you're mid-dash, you will then immediately trigger Varesa's charge attack, which then leads into you being able to plunge. And I hope your brain is starting to like connect the dots to why this is important, because it means Varesa doing a skill normal attack plunge combo will immediately make her enter her Fiery Passion mode, which buffs her next plunge. And I guess it's important to note now, but when you hit an enemy with Varesa's plunge while having the Fiery Passion active, Varesa will then immediately lose her Fiery Passion state and her Night Soul blessing will end, as plunging with a Fiery Passion will consume all your Night Soul points. But remember, she has 2 skill charges, so if you do your first skill and then plunge, that will make you enter your Fiery Passion state, and then your next skill plunge will be buffed. But there is another massive but that isn't Varesa's. Another mechanic Varesa has, and trust me, I will explain in simpler terms after this, is that when you enter your Fiery Passion state, her elemental skill will be reset. So this means you can do 4 elemental skill plunges in a row, and 2 of those plunges will receive the Fiery Passion buff. And this now leads into her elemental burst. Oh my fucking god. Varesa's elemental burst is an ass slam. No, I am not kidding. She will crush you with her ass attack. And she has 3 different elemental bursts. I'm so fucking done with this character. Her first elemental burst happens if you cast her burst while not in the Fiery Passion state, and is the weakest elemental burst, doing the least amount of damage. It will, however, put Varesa in the Fiery Passion state after the burst, and give her maximum Night Soul points. If you are already in the Fiery Passion state when you cast Varesa's elemental burst, then you get an elemental burst that is much stronger and has a very cool animation that is practically the only difference. But this buffed up burst is actually inoptimal. The burst you're actually going to want to do is triggered from the Apex Drive state. For a refresher, the Apex Drive state is triggered when Varesa uses a plunging attack while in the Fiery Passion state, and you're probably wondering what makes this burst special and why do you want to use it? Well, for one, Varesa is normally a 70 cost burst, but this special burst is only a 30 cost, and it's a 30 cost while doing more damage than the base elemental burst. And since it's a 30 cost, with the combos I'll go into later, it will also just do more damage overall than the Fiery Passion burst as well. This also means that Varesa will be left with 10 energy after using 2 of her Apex Drive bursts, effectively making her a 60 cost now, which helps with energy requirements. The only disappointing thing about this burst is that if you use it, you don't get an elemental burst animation. It just looks like a different plunging attack animation, so you lose some cool points. And I guess another benefit is that her Apex Drive burst is treated as a plunging attack, where her other elemental bursts are just elemental burst damage, and to my knowledge don't benefit from plunge buffs. The last thing in Varesa's kit is her passive talents, in which they are just stat and damage buffs. You can read them if you want, but there's nothing much to say. Alright, so that is going to be all of Varesa's kit covered, so let's now explain the optimal way to play her. Varesa's optimal combo is going to be skill, normal attack plunge, skill, normal attack plunge, special burst, skill, normal attack plunge, skill, normal attack plunge, special burst, skill, normal attack plunge. Now to break down why it's like this, the first skill and plunge is to make Varesa enter her Fiery Passion state, and then the skill and plunge after that will be buffed by Varesa's Fiery Passion, making it deal more damage. But as we know, when you hit an enemy while in the Fiery Passion state with a plunging attack, you will now enter the Apex Drive state, enabling Varesa's special burst so you can use it. And then because entering Fiery Passion resets skill cooldown, you can repeat the combo again of skill plunge, Apex Drive burst. And then after this, even if you have the energy for it, if you try to do another skill plunge chain, you will just lose buffs. So you want to just do one more skill plunge for extra damage, and that's going to be the end of your combo. And from there you can recast buffs and start your rotation again. I really hope that made sense, but that is currently looking to be the combo that squeezes out the most damage from Varesa. Fuck whoever made this kit. But whoever made her design, I am all for it. I do think if they were going to make a chubby Genshin girl, they should have gone further, but it's fine as is, I guess. She's extremely cute, and when she does her special sprint, she literally turns into Sonic the Hedgehog. I adore this character so much. Anyways, with all of this in mind, let's go ahead and look into Varesa's best teams. One thing to know is that Varesa pairs really well with Eonson, and if you watched my last video, you'll know that in terms of raw buffing, Eonson is currently the strongest buffer we have in the game for attack scalers, not including 5-star constellations. So Varesa being able to upkeep a high amount of Night Soul for Eonson's buff makes them an ideal pairing. And because of her A4, having a Natlan unit is just really nice in her teams, to where if you have Varesa, she's practically going to be tied to the hip with Eonson, and they'll most likely be on the same banner together, so it's very hard to recommend Varesa teams that aren't also going to be able to have Eonson on them. But this doesn't really matter, as again, same banner and you'll be playing them together regardless. Now for team archetypes, currently her strongest right now is going to be with Chevreuse. Chevy at the current moment just gives the strongest buffs, and in comparison to someone like Xianyun, who I'll talk about shortly, Miltank does a decent amount of damage from her skill and charge attack, which Xianyun doesn't buff, where Chevreuse will buff all of Varesa's kit, leaving her to just be better overall. So the core of your team will be Varesa, Eonson, Chevreuse, and then any power unit of your choice. Malvika is going to be the best as she offers additional buffing and does a very good amount of damage, while keeping rotations at 18 seconds of length. But any of the other power units like Dea, Tomo, or Xiangling should function, but they just won't be as good. Pyro main character does lose quite a lot of value because Eonson holds scroll, though at the same time, PMC still gives some buffing through C1, so isn't the end of the world, they'll still be pretty solid. The second strongest team for Varesa is going to be hypercarry plunge teams, with Eonson and Xianyun of course, and then Furina or Shalunnin to complete the team. In terms of sheet DPS, which I'll show shortly, this is going to be lower than the Chevreuse teams, but not because Varesa does any less or more damage, but just because Malvika does a ton of damage on Chevreuse teams, and that is mostly what is making the difference. Also, Varesa can realistically run 18-second long rotations, but you're bottlenecked by Xianyun's burst cooldown, so you have to play a longer rotation. This team still does have some upsides though, one being again that it will scale better with Varesa's investment directly, and the second is that with the Chevreuse team you have 2 4-star supports, and after that you've pretty much maxed out your supportive vertical investment path once you get Malvika C2. However, on this team, both Furina and Xianyun have insane constellations for buffing, and you can also get something like Xianyun's weapon, so at Dolphin investment there's a realistic chance where this just becomes Varesa's best team, as you can get better supportive constellations on your 5-stars. But at C0, this type of team isn't that impressive compared to other damage dealers. It's within the ballpark for most top tier teams. Xianyun at C0 just doesn't buff Varesa enough, mainly due to the fact that Xianyun scales so much more with amplifying reactions, which is something the Electro character obviously can't do, and also Xianyun's buffs are a single target, which is quite annoying. If you don't have Xianyun or Chevreuse, You can play an aggravate team, although it's so much worse than her other teams to where I can't really say I'd recommend it. So she's kind of a Shanyun Chevreuse character or die. So with all of this out of the way, how good is Varesa? Yesterday I made a community post saying that Varesa is better than all of Clorinde's pre-Eonson teams, but with Eonson, Clorinde and Varesa are about equal. Though as I said in my community post, this was assuming a combo we had no way of verifying is their strongest. And now with more combat details on Varesa, her timings, and her new combos, she kind of just blows Clorinde and most other DPS in the game out of the water, theoretically at least. I do want to say that the calculations I show in this video are not done by me. They are done by a really good friend and much smarter theory crafter than me, Vomfi, who did help a lot with this video, and for that please go show him some love. He streams himself doing all of his calculations, so if you want to have knowledge on the 5.5 characters as quick as possible, or just give team recommendations, Vomfi is going to be your guy for that. And if you are ever in his stream, make sure to say that I sent you, so he knows his place. But going based off Vomfi's calculations, with both the Chevreuse and Hyper Plunge team, you can see that it does a really competitive amount of damage, and this is with a C2 Eonson. To compare this to Clorinde, as I said, she just theoretically at least beats what is going to be Clorinde's new best team, being slightly ahead of her in DPS. So sadly, Clorinde means, at least on paper, she's no longer going to be the Electro ceiling, and that spot is now taken up by this fucking cow. But I just want to say that sheets aren't everything, they only serve as a baseline for how good these characters might be. Varesa can look better performance-wise but lose in practice due to a variety of in-game factors, so we can only know how strong Varesa shapes up to be when she actually releases. The only sad part about this, if you are a Clorinde main or just an Electro main in general, is the fact that Eonson is shaping up to be universally the best Electro support in the game, but Eonson and Varesa are most likely going to be on the same banner, so it creates this weird predicament to where if you want to go for Eonson and her constellations, if Varesa is on the banner, you might get a high constellation Varesa before even getting a decent amount of copies of Eonson. So just good luck with your pulls, I guess. And for how Varesa compares to the other DPS, if you have a C6 Eonson, her DPS shoots up to the low 100k DPS range, so Varesa is now one of the 3 characters that can reach the 100k DPS threshold pretty realistically, the other 2 being Mualani and Malvuika. So the top 3 teams in the game all use Malvuika. This is the funniest thing ever. But yes, unless she has massive gameplay issues that we are unable to know currently, Varesa is shaping up to be one of the strongest damage dealers in the game right now, whilst being the current Electro ceiling by a decent margin. I don't really have anything else to say. I'll make a more in-depth comparison with Clorinde as we get closer to her release date, but with that, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on Varesa, as I love to hear and respond to almost every single comment. Channel members, I love you and really do appreciate your support. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace.